Self-control is a super hot topic. Everybody wants to know, how can they get more of it? How can they get their kids have more of it? And how can they have their students have more of it? So we're going to jump right into it today. I'm going to be sharing 3 strategies on how to bring more self-control into the life of the child that you know, love, or teach. So self-control, first of all, is basically, sometimes we can call it self-regulation. We can call it self-control. We can call it emotional control, right? If you're looking at executive functioning skills, we talk a lot about response inhibition, being able to inhibit those impulses that just make you want to scream, that make you want to walk out of the classroom, that make you want to blurt something out loud that's totally not appropriate or you're going to regret saying later, right? So 3 ways that we want to teach, 3 strategies we want to use so that our children can develop self-control, right? Some kids have it, some kids don't. Some adults have it and some adults don't. So we are always coming from the framework of how can we help them get better at self-control versus they have no self-control, right? How can we help them get better? Reframes our actions, reframes how we're going to approach it, and it just leads to a more positive experience for both of us. Okay, tip number 1 is we need to make a connection. Anybody in the parenting space, in the psychology space, will talk about connection. There's more and more research out there now showing that more than any of the things we can try, disciplinarians are talking about it in schools, is what really works and what really helps the child engage with you and be open and receptive is having connection with them. Whatever you can do, whatever you can try and make sure that you're approaching the situation is like, hey, I see you're having a hard time controlling your fill in the blanks, your body, fill in the blank with your mouth, your hands, your facial expressions, right? Sometimes it's all in our face and we can't control it. Sometimes it's controlling their impulses, right? So coming to them with like, hey, we're in this together. We're building that connection. I'm on your team. How can we figure out how to fix this problem? Or how can we get better at controlling our body? How can we get better at waiting our turn? How can we get better in following the rules in the cafeteria, at dinner time, in the movie theater, wherever you are? That connection will really set the stage for anything else you try, versus if we come at them like you're being bad, or here's your red check mark, or the red clip, or the red sad face. Sometimes that just makes the kids feel bad if you're lucky. Sometimes it makes them feel bad enough that they'll figure out their behavior. And sometimes it makes them say, well, I don't really care about your sad face, happy face, so I'm just gonna do whatever I want. So I much prefer the connection, and actually a lot of the research shows the connection goes a lot further than the negative shaming, guilting that goes along with behavior charts. That's a whole other video. So if you've tried any of these, let me know in the comments below where you've seen your child lose it with self-control. Maybe where you've seen yourself lose it with self-control, right? Step number 2 is I want you to, of course, I'm an OT, of course I'm going to say this. When you see your child, this kid struggling the most with self-control, I want you to bring movement into the equation, right? If they're struggling with self-control, it could be an emotional, they're not regulated emotionally, it could be physically. Their brain is probably in fight or flight. And the best way to trick that primitive brain of ours is with movement, right? It tells our brain, hey, you're running away from the lion, you're gonna be safe. It tells your brain, hey, you're putting out the fire, we're gonna be safe now. So it kind of has a way, movement has a way of de-escalating when our body is totally dysregulated and when self-control is really hard to tap into. So I want you to go to movement. Take a walk around the block. If you have, you're a teacher and you're trying to implement this in your classroom, have a box of phone books, big phone books, wrap them in wrapping paper. I need you to drop this off in Miss Maggie's in the office. And that moving around, carrying something heavy will de-escalate it. If you guys are at home, say, hey, you know what? Let's go for a walk around the block. I know you think you don't have time for the walk around the block, but sometimes the 3-minute walk around the block is going to be able to snap everybody out of it, and it'll take a lot less time than the 20-minute temper tantrum that can follow, than the lecture you may want to give instead, than having them carry through with a punishment. Give the movement a try. Let me know how it goes. Last thing that I feel so many people forget, especially if you're trying to implement a sensory strategy for movement, and then you come back and your child's even more dysregulated and having even a harder time with self-control than they did before, try this. Follow movement with something calming. I'm not saying you must do a full-fledged vinyasa yoga flow with your students or child. Something calming as 3 cleansing breaths. Something calming as putting your hand on your chest and your hand on your belly. 500 years ago when I was a child, we'd go to recess and we'd come in and they'd have the lights off and we'd put our head down. And that was the calming moment after the crazy time in the playground, coming back all hot and sweaty. So this isn't much different. Try and find some kind of calming movement, especially if you're seeing that the movement escalates the difficulty with self-control. It's because we're missing that calming, deep, heavy movement piece. So I want you to go ahead and stick around, watch the next video, and let me know how these self-control strategies work for you at home or in your classroom.